Hey guys, it's Kelsey. I'm back with another Off the Board with Pineapple Papers YouTube hop. So Crystal is doing this all month long, every single day. She's using a Pinterest inspiration. I'm playing along every Monday, but she's also got lots of other friends playing along with her every day. So if this is something you like, make sure you check her out. I'm also using one of Mercy Tiara's summer inspiration mood boards. I love this mood board, lots of florals, lots of like peachy tones, and I really thought this moth paper was very reminiscent of a lot of the floral patterns I saw in the mood board. So I'm using that as the background, and you saw that first photo was my Pinterest inspiration. I was really inspired by the way it was laid out and also trying to do a little bit of maybe some mixed media around the edge. So you can see I got the center portion of this moth paper to save for another layout. But I'm just taking some white gesso and a dry paintbrush and trying to do some white brush strokes around the edge of where the rest of my layers are going to be. I thought it was going to be a really nice subtle mixed media layer to do. So I'm going to do that really quick. I'm just going in a square around where I think the next layer is going to end up. I just want a little bit of this white brush stroke peeking around the edges like it was in the inspiration photo. And I just thought that was a really soft, sweet touch. The inspiration or the mood board that I'm inspired by is very light and airy. It's very summery and floral, and I think this white really helps with that, even though the background is moths instead of flowers. So I'm just going to let that dry really quick, and then you'll see me come back in and glue this down to this black background. It did buckle a little bit, so I'm just going to attach it to this back piece that I painted it on top of just for a little bit of stability. So I'm going to do that really quick, and then I will get the rest of my paper layers from the inspiration pin down. I pulled a lot of these light blue and basically any scraps I already had cut into from previous pages that were in this color scheme. So you will see that marbly, watercolory looking blue and peach come back in. You see that very bright orangey, pinky blue plaid. I'm going to try and bring that back in. And then I do have one of the solid pieces from the project pad of that pale blue, just so I have something subtle and not patterned to try and give your eye a little bit of a break, because between the moths and the plaid and this marble, there is a lot of pattern going on in very similar color schemes. So I thought having this plain blue piece of paper would be a nice break for all of that. So I'm going to try and use the light blue as the large background layer. So you can see here, I'm going to cut a big square. I think I cut it at, I think it was 8 by 8, but it covered up too much of this white mixed media. So I cut it down again. And so I think I cut it to, I don't know, 8 by 8 or 7 by 7. I cut it down a whole nother inch than what it was. I can't remember what the exact measurements were, but to me that looks good. Enough of that mixed media is showing. So now I'm going to use the scraps of these other coordinating papers to try and get the rest of the layers that were in that inspiration page that I'm lifting. Once I get all of these layers down, I realized that I cut the blue paper a little bit too small, and I actually needed it a little bit larger because just too much of it is covered. But thankfully in this particular layout that I'm lifting, there are horizontal and vertical pieces going edge to edge across this blue piece of paper, which means I can cut this piece and stretch those pieces out and have those gaps covered by these other elements. So that was very fortunate. You'll see here I'm just marking on that blue paper where I can cut. And here you can see I'm going to end up spreading these pieces out a little more to make up the difference. So I'm going to glue those down really quick. That's what happens, I guess, when you cut page papers too small. But in this instance, it ends up working out. I think I glued them down in the wrong spots, which I'll notice in a minute. So I will pull them all up and glue them back down in the right spots. It really wouldn't have mattered if the background paper wasn't directional, but because I wanted these moths up and down, I really couldn't just rotate the paper. So what I'm gluing down to the left side is actually supposed to be on the bottom, just so the gaps are where I need them. Now, if I tried to glue it down like this, that horizontal marbly piece would have been too high up, and you can see I just realized that. So I'm going to rotate all of these pieces so that they're supposed to be, and then we will continue. So I just have one photo here. This is from Mother's Day last year. Me and my sister took my mom to the Atlanta Botanical Gardens. So this is just a photo from that. It may have been my mom's birthday, actually, now that I think about it. But I have this photo of me with an Alice in Wonderland scene. So they rotate themes at the Atlanta Botanical Garden every once in a while, and their theme right now is Alice in Wonderland, which is super, super cool. They had a whole lot of Alice in Wonderland themed things. In this particular scene, there's the Cheshire Cat, some mushrooms, and Alice, which is just sleeping. It's really hard to see her in this photo, but that blue there is her dress, and the yellow to the on the far right of the photo behind my shoulder is her hair, to kind of give you frame of reference. But I thought this very floral inspired mood board was appropriate because it gave me that summer florally vibe, even though I'm using the moths. So I thought it went. And so I'm pulling in another little cut apart sentiment here. It just says completely and perfectly and incandescently happy, which of course is a quote from Jane Austen. I believe that was Pride and Prejudice. And so I thought that was nice. I brought in a slightly darker tone of the same blue that I'm already using. And then I also have this cut apart of the moths on the blue background. So I really like the repetition of pulling the moths into the front layers, but in a different way. So I have them on this blue instead of on the peach. So I like how that's forming that little cluster to the left of the photo. I really wanted to pull in some dimensional things, and I just happened to remember that I had some wood veneer of some mushrooms that I just haven't used because I'm not really I don't know, it's hard for me to use mushrooms, I guess, but since there's mushrooms in the photo and it is Alice in Wonderland, I figured this was the perfect page to try to get them used up on. So you did see me pull those in, as well as a bunch of wood veneer hearts. So before I glue them down, though, I'm going to get the title on here. I'm just using the gold foiled alphas that come in the project pad. And I'm just going to spell out Wonderland. I thought about doing Alice in Wonderland, but I do believe I have a page for this day that's going to be right next to this one that says Alice in Wonderland and has all the journaling from this day. So I really didn't need to do a whole lot. So I kind of do like that it just says Wonderland as a nod, but it's not, Alice in Wonderland, because you can see the Cheshire Cat pretty clearly in the photo, even if you can't see Alice. So I think that's enough to try, you can understand what it's about. So I only had one N left, so I am using the U's as my N's instead. So I can save that last N on that sticker sheet, and the U's look the same, obviously, so the ends wouldn't look different, if that makes sense. But now that that's down, I'm going to get the cluster to the left here down. I'm going to glue the little cut apart, and then this horizontal piece. I do want something else here, and there wasn't really another cut apart I wanted to layer up behind here, and all the other stickers on the sticker sheet, there just wasn't really anything I thought would look nice behind that cut apart. But I did have a scrap of this doily from a previous page that was sitting next to me, so I thought that was a nice perfect touch, especially because doilies to me always kind of remind me of tea. I don't know why. I mean, I know what they're initially used for, so I guess that makes sense. But as there is the tea party and everything in Alice in Wonderland, I thought a doily was also kind of on theme. But of course, I always like them just for their decorative edge. So I'm just going to tuck that in. I think that's a nice little layer, and I think that's just enough. I also had a cut apart of this banner that's that same blue peach marbly pattern. So I'm thinking about trying to pull that up to the top of the page to pull that horizontal pattern into another place. So I really like that. I'm going to cluster some hearts and these mushrooms in two separate areas. I kind of want to create a visual triangle with all of these wood veneer. So I have the two clusters with those mushrooms, and then I have a row of hearts on the right side by the title. That's going to be my third area. My inspiration photo has 5 sequins or buttons or something there on the side going up the side of the photo. So I thought I could use my wood veneer basically for that element. But I only had 4 different sizes of hearts, and I really needed 5 design-wise and because inspiration had 5. So I went back and pulled out a little wood veneer girl to have as one of the elements, and then I have my hearts in descending size going up from the wood veneer girl. So I think that'll be perfect for the visual triangle of wood veneer. And then because I have this gold title and it's the only thing gold on the page, I really wanted to pull in some more gold elements. And of course, when I look at this collection, what I really am drawn to is the rub-ons. I love the rub-ons in this Twilight collection from One Canoe 2. So, and there were some florals that I needed to use up. There are 2 florals and I thought that would be perfect. So I'm going to tuck 2 of these rub-ons on either side of this plaid column. And I think that's a really pretty nice touch, and it also accentuates a visual triangle between the title and those 2 gold elements at the top. So that's kind of what I was thinking there. Here you can see me sticking down the wood veneer pieces. I need to get that last cluster of wood veneer down. But I think it turned out really good. I covered up a little bit more of the mixed media than I initially intended. But in the end, I like the amount of mixed media that shows because I just wanted it to be that little subtle detail, and I think it does that for me. So I'm pretty pleased with how that turned out. But now you can see where those are all going to go. And then another thing from my Pinterest pin I really wanted to pull in were these twine bundles that the original poster had in a couple areas. So sorry if this scares you a little bit, but I'm going to use my wet glue to doodle some squiggles across the entire layout where I want this twine trail to go. So I'm basically just going over the glue that I traced with the twine. That way it stays secure and it doesn't move in the album. But I thought this was another really cool, whimsical way to pull in a design element. This twine also has some gold in it, so it pulls that gold in a little more. And it's definitely something literal from the inspiration that I wanted to incorporate on my page. So some things I deviated from the inspiration pin, but this was one of the cool things I pinned that inspiration for that I really wanted to get on here. So that just takes me a minute to get this twine down. I'm using my Tombow Mono Multi-Liquid Glue, which is super, super sticky. I do want to make sure this twine goes exactly on it though, because even once this glue dries, it's still very, very tacky, and I really don't want that glue exposed to where it's going to stick to other things. So I'm just taking my time with that, but I think that's really cool. I kind of hemmed and hawed about it for a second. I was like, does it make it look messy? But in the end, I'm like, it's Alice in Wonderland. It's okay if it's a little crazy. And also, it's glued down with Tombow Mono Multi. It's not coming up, so you're just gonna have to be okay with it. But I really like how it ended up. I did do some Heidi Swap Gold Color Shine, and these are the close-ups. So thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you check out Crystal from Pineapple Papers if you like the Pinterest pins off the board with pineapple paper hop, because she's doing it every single day, again, with lots of friends. But thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.